Question 1. 6 cups. The cost of 6 cups is £7.80. The cost of 10 of work out the cost of 10 of these cups. So 1 cup will be worth £7.80 divided by 6. And if we work that out, so put the divide outside using bus stop method, £7.80. How many 6's are there in 7? Well, there's 1 with a remainder of 1. Put the decimal point up there so it lines up. How many 6's in 18? There's 3. And obviously there's none in 0. So 1 cup is £1.30. So 10 cups would equal 10 times that amount. So it's 10 times £1.30, which is £13. Question 2. On the grid, enlarge the shape with a scale factor 3. Centre A. I've already put construction lines on from the centre of enlargement to each corner of the shape and carried them on. So it's that line that goes up like that, this line here, and this line here. With a scale factor of 3, each of these points needs to get 3 times as far away. So this point here, instead of being 2 squares away, 2 times 3 is 6. So it'll go to here. This one is 2 squares away, so it'll go to 6 squares away. 2, 4, 6. And I can already see it's lining up with that one. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares away. So I need to take it, it needs to then therefore become 15 squares away. 5, 10, 15, I can see it's lining up there. So the last step is to join these points up with a ruler, like so. And so we get 3 marks for a fully correct triangle. It's basically 1 mark per corner being correct. Question 3. Use your calculator to work out the square root of 40.96 divided by 7.1 take away 2.48. Write down all the figures on your calculator display. You must give your answer as a decimal. So, the first thing I'm going to do, because I can see that it's one big fraction, I'm going to start off by pressing the fraction button, which is that one there, in order to get this fraction display on the screen. Put in the square root of 40.96 and then move the cursor down and type in 7.1 take away 2.48 and then press equals and we get that fraction. Now if I just put that fraction, I only get 2 marks. For the full 3 marks, you only get 1 mark. For the full 2 marks, you need to convert that to a decimal, and we do that using the S to D button, which is down here. And so the final answer is 1.3852881. And there's recurring dots above the 3 and the 1 to show that it would continue. The diagram shows a flower bed. This is question 4. The diagram shows a flower bed in the shape of a circle. The flower bed has a diameter of 2.4 meters. Sue is going to put a plastic strip around the edge of the flower bed. The plastic strip is sold in 2-meter rolls. How many rolls of plastic strip does Sue need to buy? You must show all your working. The first step is to find the diameter of that circle. We know the diameter of the circle, we want to find the circumference. We know that circumference is pi d. So we're going to do pi times by that diameter, 2.4. Now, using the calculator, we get this. I'm going to use, I could use 3.142. I'm going to use the calculator's version of pi. So shift pi times 2.4 and press S to D, and I get 7.54. So I've rounded that to 3 significant figures. So the circumference of that flower bed is 7.54 meters. Now it says it's sold in 2-meter rolls. So in order to get to 7.54, I'm basically going to need 4 rolls worth, which would give me 8 meters, which would be enough. So in order to get the marks in this question, you needed to, you get a mark for this, a mark for that, a clear statement that 4 rolls are needed, and also a mark recognising that it will be 8 meters. Question 5. K equals 3e plus 5. Work out the value of k when e is minus 2. So if e is minus 2, I can substitute it in. K will equal 3e will be 3 times minus 2, and then add the 5. 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. Add 5 gives me a total of minus 1. For that question, you get a correct method mark for the correct substitution, and then obviously a mark for the answer, so that gives a total of 2 marks. 5 part B, solving this equation. First step is to get all the y's onto one side. So I'm going to take away 2y from both sides, which would leave 2y plus 3 equals 14. The next step, I want to get rid of this 3, so I take away 3 from both sides. So 2y equals 11. And then to finish off, divide by 2, they cancel. So y would be 11 divided by 2, which is 5.5, or 5.5. For that question, you get a method mark for attempting to subtract 2y, or subtracting 3 from both sides. So either one of those would give you a method mark, and then a final mark for your final answer. Question C, solve 3 open brackets x take away 5 close brackets equals 21. That's multiplying everything by 3, so the opposite would be to divide everything by 3. Divide by 3. That cancels with that, which just leaves x take away 5. The brackets are no longer needed. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Now I've got x take away 5 is 7, so if I add 5 to both sides, it removes the minus 5, so x equals 7 plus 5, which is 12. For that one there, you get either you get a method mark for either expanding those brackets or doing what I did, which was divide both sides by 3, and you get obviously a mark for the final answer, which gives you 2 marks. Okay, this one, part D, minus 3 is less than n, which is less than 4. N is an integer. Write down all the possible values of n. N can't be minus 3 because it's not equal to it, but it can be minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. It can't be 4 because it has to be less than 4. So those the correct numbers it could be. You get 2 marks for having all 6 correct values, which is what I got. If you got 5 correct values but no incorrect values, then you just get 1 mark for that one. Question 6. The diagram shows the position of 2 boats, B and C. I've already drawn on the bearings. Boat T is a bearing of 60 degrees from boat B. So what I did is I got the protractor, measured a 60-degree bearing from north, and then drew a construction line going in that direction. Boat T is on a bearing of 285 from boat C. So because it's greater than 180 degrees, I can't measure 285 on here. So I did 180 degree first as a straight line going down. Then I took 180 away from 285, and that left me with 105 to do. So I did a 105 degree bearing round there to get the other direction coming from boat C. Now, where they cross is the position of boat T. So I need to mark clearly with a cross the position of boat T there, and label it. So you get 1 mark for that question for this bearing, 1 mark for that bearing, and 1 mark for clearly indicating the position of where boat T is. So that's 1 mark for this, 1 mark for that, and then 1 mark for the final position. This is question 7. Petra booked a family holiday. The total cost of the holiday was £3,500 plus VAT at 20%. So to work out the total cost, that would be 3,500 times 1.20 to give that 20% increase. So 3,500 times 1.20, which is £4,200. So the total cost of the holiday is £4,200. Petra paid 900 of the total cost when she booked a holiday. Well, let's subtract that 900 right now. That would give me, so that's 4,200, take away the 900, that's £3,300. So there's still £3,300 left to pay. It says here that she paid the rest of the total cost in 6 equal monthly payments. So work out the amount of each monthly payment. So I need to get that £3,300 and divide it by 6. So that's 550. So each monthly payment would be £550. So for that question, we get a method mark for correctly finding the 20% of the amount, and another mark for carrying out an increase. So I did that in one go, so that's 2 marks before we even started, because I used the multiply method. You get a method mark for subtracting 900, and then you get a method mark for division by 6, and then obviously the mark for the final answer, giving you a total of 5 marks for that question. Question 8. Dan has some marbles. Ellie, well, we'll say Dan is D marbles. Ellie has twice as many marbles as Dan. Alright, so E can be Ellie, and that's the same as 2 times what Dan's got, 2D. Frank has 15 marbles. Well, we'll call Frank F, and he can be 15. Dan plus Ellie plus Frank have a total of 63 marbles. Okay, so if I do D plus E plus F, Dan, Ellie and Frank makes a total of 63 marbles. How many marbles does Dan have? Right, I've already created quite a lot of algebra for this question. So I'm going to substitute this and this into my little expression that I've got here. So I'll keep D, but instead of E, because E is 2D, instead of E I'm going to put 2D there. And I know Frank is actually 15, so I'll just put plus 15 equals 63. So if I simplify that expression, 2D plus D is 3D plus 15 equals 63. And now try and solve it like an equation. So I can forget about all of this now and just concentrate on solving this equation. So take away 15 from both sides. So 3D will equal 63 take away 15, which is 48. And then divide by 3. That means D is 48 divided by 3, which is 16. So let's go through the marking for that answer. I get a method mark for constructing this expression. You get a method mark for attempting to subtract 15 from both sides. It's a 3-mark question, so you get the final mark for the final answer. Question number 9. Ketchup is sold in 3 different sizes of bottle. We've got a small bottle, medium and large. And we've got the number of grams in each and the price for each one. They want to know which bottle is best value for money. Show your working. So we'll start with a small bottle. And what we're trying to do is find the price per gram. So we're going to get that 88p and divide it by the number of grams, 342. And 88 divided by 342 is 0.257 pence per gram. Okay, next one, medium is 195 pence. £1.95 is 195 pence. So 195 divided by the number of grams, 570, is 0.342 pence per gram, and large is 399 pence, £3.99, divided by 1,500, .266 pence per gram. So the best value for money is the lowest pence per gram, which is this one. So I need to clearly write that small is best value. So let's go through the marks for that question. So you get a method mark for each comparative calculation, so that's one for each of these, and then a method, and then obviously the mark for your conclusion, so that's 4 marks in total. Question 10. GHJ, here it is a right-angled triangle, so it's either going to be Pythagoras or trigonometry. Calculate the length of GJ. Give your answer to 1 decimal place. Okay, so this is Pythagoras because I'm finding the third missing side. So I need to find the square root of 24 10.5 squared plus 10.6 squared. And into the calculator. So make sure you can see square root of 24.5 squared plus 10.6 squared. It's plus because we're finding the longest side. And press S. Don't need to press S to D. It's 26.694, and they want it to correct to one decimal place, so that 9's going to round up, so it's 26.7 centimetres, which would be correct. And you get a method mark for. Okay, so you get a method mark for this method here. You get a method mark for the correct getting this part within the brackets calculated correctly, which I obviously did because I put it straight into the calculator, and then a method mark for the final answer. Now, moving on to LMH is a different right angle triangle. Calculate the size of the angle marked X. Give your answer to one decimal place. Because it's got an angle involved, this will be a trigonometry question. So I'll identify my sides. This is the hypotenuse, this is the adjacent, and this is the opposite, because it's opposite where the angle is, and this is next to where the angle is, and H is the longest side. So writing out the formula triangles, SOHCAHTOA. I'm going to use the one which has got both H and A in it. I'm not interested in O. So it's the cosine one, which has both H and A in it. So I'm trying to find the angle. So I know cos X will be adjacent divided by hypotenuse. That's 7 divided by 18. Which if I do that, 7 divided by 18 is 0.38 recurring. Now, what I want to do is, I don't want to know what cos X is, I want to know what X is, so I need to inverse cos that result. So what I'm going to do on the calculator, rather than keep it really accurate because I've still got the answer in there, I'm going to shift cos and then answer, and I get 67.11, but I'm going to give my answers to 3 sig fig because that's what's appropriate for this question. So 3 sig fig. And it actually said there, only give your answer to one decimal place anyway, so that's fine. Okay, so we get a method mark for this stage. We get a method mark for doing the inverse cos, and then we get a mark for a final answer. So that's a 3-mark question. Question 11. The equation x cubed minus 6x equals 84 has a solution between 4 and 5. Use trial and improvement to find the solution. So what I did is I first of all went for a decimal between 4 and 5, 4.5, which is exactly halfway, and I substituted that into that expression. So it's 4.5 cubed minus 6 times 4.5. And I got 64.125, which is too small. So I started recording my results in a table. I put in 4.5 and got 64.125, which is too small. So next I wanted to try something larger. I thought I'd try 4.7. So using my calculator, I went back into the expression and changed it to be 4.7. And I got 75.623. So I did that, and now obviously that's too small because I'm looking for 84. And then I carried on investigating. So I found that 4.7 was too small, so I thought I'd try something larger. I thought I'd try 4.9. 4.9 was too big, so I took it back and tried 4.8, which was too small. So now I know it's somewhere between 4.8 and 4.9. So we need to find our answer to one decimal place. So I need to find out which of these I need to round to. So I tried straight in the middle, 4.85, and I realised it was too big. Now that means that I need to round it down. So I rounded it down to 4.8 because the answer is closer to 4.8 than it is to 4.9. Now the marks for this, you obviously get, they're essentially looking for the trials that you've done. So if you've done 3 successful trials, whatever they are, to correctly identify the fact you've got a final answer of 4.8, that gets you the full marks. Now, if you've done a few trials and not got the final answer, you'll obviously get the marks for those. Question 12. Complete this table of values for y equals x cubed plus 2x, take 1. So I'm going to substitute minus 2 into this expression. I'm going to use brackets just to make absolutely sure that it carries out the operations in the correct order. So I've got minus 2 cubed plus 2 lots of minus 2, take away 1, and I get negative 13. And now I can sort of cheat and go back into that expression and change the minus 2's to be 0. Although I really should know what that is off the top of my head. It should be minus 1, which it is. And then go back into the expression and change those values to be 1. And that's 2. So that's part 1 done. You get 2 marks for all the values correct. If you just got one value correct, you get 1 mark, regardless of what you got for the other ones. So we now need to plot that in the graph. Minus 2 minus 13. Minus 2 minus 13 would be here. Minus 1 minus 4 is there. 0 minus 1 is here. 1, 2 is there. And 2, 11 is here. Now, it's obviously not a straight graph. That's because it's a cubic graph, because it's got the x cubed in it. So I'm going to join those up using a curve like this. I missed a couple of the points, but that is the shape that it should be. In terms of marks, you get a method mark for at least 4 points plotted correctly, and then a point for the curve. So I've obviously got both of those things, so that's 2 marks for that question. Question 13. Solve the simultaneous equations 3x plus 10y equals 7 and x minus 4y equals 6. So what I'm going to try and do is get the coefficients of x to be the same. So I'm going to keep this top expression the same. Keep that as 3x plus 10y equals 7. But this bottom expression, I'm going to times it by 3. So I get 3x minus 12y, because it's been times by 3, and 6 times 3 is 18. So I've got expression A and I've got expression B. Now, because the signs of the two 3x's are the same, they're both positive, I need to use subtraction to eliminate. So I'm going to do the expression B, take away expression A. So 3x take away 3x is nothing. Minus 12y take away 10y is minus 22y, and 18 take away 7 is 11. Now, in order to get y on its own, I need to divide by minus 22. So divide by minus 22, divide by minus 22. They cancel, so I just get left with y. Now 11 divided by 22 is 0.5 because it's a minus. It's minus 0.5. So y is minus 0.5. Now I need to substitute that in to get to find out what x is. So I'll substitute it into the first expression because that looks simplest. So 3 x plus 10y, so that's 10 times minus 0.5 equals 7. I'll just put that in brackets so it doesn't get mixed up with anything else. So 3x plus 10 times minus 0.5 is minus 5. So actually I can just make this minus 5 equals 7. Add 5 to both sides. 3x is 7 plus 5, which is 12. Divide both sides by 3. X is 4. And that's that solution. So you get, in terms of marks, you get a method mark for a full method to eliminate x or y, allowing one error in calculation, so that is just 1 mark for all of that. You get 1 mark for a substitution here, and you get an answer mark for having both minus 4 and minus 0.5. Question 14. Triangle A is reflected in the x-axis to give triangle B. Well, let's do that right now. The x-axis is here. It's this horizontal line going across. So we're going to reflect triangle A, so getting each point and reflecting it one by one. That one's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'll be here. And then join those up with a ruler. Good. So that is triangle B. Triangle B is then reflected in the line x equals 1. Well, x equals 1 is this line here. I'll draw this on, putting dashes so it doesn't get mixed up with the other ones. And that's the line x equals 1. So it's then reflected to give triangle C. So let's reflect that across. 1, 2, 1, 2. That'll be 2 squares on. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And join those up with a ruler. Okay, and that's triangle C. So, describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle C. Well, I can see actually that these are kind of related. If I put these lines in, it might make it easier to see, but that's a rotation. If you see those spin round, ignore triangle B, they spin round that center point there. So it's a 180 degree rotation. About point, so that's the center of rotation, which is here, which is the coordinates 1, 0. So you get an answer mark for the word rotation, you get an answer for that mark for that center, and oh, by the way, for the rotation you have to say it's 180 degrees. Oh, and you get a method mark for these drawings here, basically getting to here without having any error whatsoever. And that's the end of that question. Okay, question 15. Let's zoom in a little bit. Ella wants to invest savings of £6,000 for 2 years. She finds information about savings accounts in 2 different banks. Northway Bank, compound interest of 3.8% per annum, or Portland Bank, compound interest of 5% per annum in year 1, 3.2% per annum in year 2. Lily wants to choose the bank that pays the greatest total amount of interest for the 2 years. Which should she choose? So let's start with Northway. So if we get that £6,000 and we times it by the percentage multiplier. Now, if it's an increase of 3.8%, that's equivalent to 0.038. But if we're doing a percentage increase, we add 1 to it. So it's 1.038. And then we put that to the power of the number of years, which is 2. So 6,000 times 1.038 to the power of 2 is 64 pounds 66. Okay, so that's how much it'd be worth after the 2 years. Now, if we look at Portland, we've got 5% per annum in year 1, 3.2% per annum in year 2. So for year 1, I want to get that £6,000. And again, using the multiplier method, I times that by 1.05, but I'm just doing it once because it's for 1 year, so it could be to the power of 1, but there's no point because they'd be the same. 6,000 times 1.05 is 6,300. And then for year 2, I want to get that 6,300 and reinvest it. So I times it by 1.032 will be the multiplier for that year, which would give me times 1.032, £6,501.60. So we can see that with Portland, gives us the most interest because that's much more than that. So I'm writing Portland most interest. Okay, so let's check the marks for that one. We have, so we've got a correct answer, Portland Bank with values. You get a method mark for this. You get a method mark for each of these years and a method mark for the final conclusion. So that's 4 marks in total. Question 16, it's saying work out. This is a calculator paper, so this is a job for a, is it a job for a calculator? Yeah, we'll try it with the calculator and see what happens. So we're doing a division. I'm going to do each bit in brackets. So 4 times 10 to the power of 9 plus 3.2 times 10 to the power of 7. All divided by 1.6 times 10 to the power of minus 6. Okay, let's see what that gives us. 2.52 times 10 to the 15. So the calculator's actually given it to me in standard form. 2.52 times 10 to the power of 15, which is correct. So if you'd done this the long way, you would have worked out the top, and then used what your knowledge of powers of 10 to the division. You've got a method mark for that. Because we jumped straight to the answer using the calculator method, we get 2 marks straight away. Question 17. T is inversely proportional to d squared, so that means T is k over d squared. when t is 160 when d is 8. Well, that's an opportunity for us to find out what k is. So 160 will equal k over 8 squared. 8 squared is 64, so that's 160 equals k over 64. So times both sides by 64. We get if times both sides by 64, 160 times by 64, you get 10240. So 10240 is k. So that's our constant. So just updating our formula, t is 10240 divided by d squared. That is our inversely proportional formula with the constant substituted into it. Now it says find the value of t when d is minus 0.5. So that's easy. So I substitute that in. dt equals 10240 divided by 0.5 squared. Okay, so I get this divided by 0.5 squared, and that's 40960. Okay, which is my final answer. So we also get a mark for the answer. We get a mark for the production of this formula, and we get a mark for finding what k is down here. So that gives us 3 marks in total. Question 18. Solve 5x squared plus 6x minus 2 equals 0. Give your solutions to 2 decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to start by writing out the question again. 5x squared plus 6x minus 2 equals 0. And I'm going to write the form of the quadratic equation alongside it. So that's ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And this is to make easy comparison. So I can see that a is 5, b is 6, and I can see that c is minus 2. Okay, the next step is to get the quadratic formula from the formula sheet, which is this one down here. And I'm going to copy that onto the page. So I'm going to write x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. And now I'm going to substitute these values into that formula. So x will equal minus b, well b is 6, so it'll be minus 6 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 6 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is minus 2, all divided by 2a, so that's 2 times 5. In the next stage I'm going to try and simplify that a little bit. So x will equal minus 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared is 36, minus 4 times 5 times 2 is positive 40, and that's all divided by 2 times 5, which is 10. And I'm just going to simplify that one more step by adding these two together. So x will equal minus 6 plus or minus square root of 76 divided by 10. I'm then going to work it out and get two values using a calculator. When I type it in the first time, using the plus symbol, I get x to be 0.27, that's to 2 decimal places. And when I do it using the minus sign instead, x comes out to be minus 1.47, so that gives me my two solutions for that question. You've got a method mark for this substitution, and then you get a method mark for getting to this stage, and then an answer mark for having both of these at the end. So that gives you 3 marks. Question 19. ABC is a triangle. BC is 12.3 centimeters. Angle ABC is 73 degrees. The area of triangle ABC is 50 centimeters squared. Work out the length of AC. So that's what we're trying to find. Give your answer to the 3 significant figures. Alright, so what we're going to do is start by labelling up. If this is A, this must be little a. If this is B, this must be little b. If this is angle is C, this must be little c. The first formula we're going to use, we don't have enough information to find this length yet because we've got too many unknowns, but we have to do what we do know, and we do know that the area is 50. So I'm going to use the formula for area to try and figure out some more information. If I use area equals a half AC sine B, that will mean that 50 equals half times A, which is 12.3, times C, which we don't know, times sine B, which is sine 73. So 50 will equal, and I'm going to shorten all of this, I'm going to put this into the calculator, shorten it a little bit, so I've got 50, I've got half, I'll put that as 0.5, times 12.3 times sine 73. And that's 5.88. So 50 will equal 5.88 times C. So to find out what C is, I divide both sides by 5.88. So 50 divided by 5.88, and I get 8.50. Which equals C. Now, we now know this length is 8.5. So, the next stage is to try and use this, this, and this to find this missing side B. So I'm going to use the cosine rule, which means that B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cos B. Substituting in, we don't know what B squared is, but we do know we're also going to take the opportunity to square root both sides of the equation. So I'm going to square root equals the square root of a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cos b. So that will be the square root of, substituting in, a is 12.3 plus c, which is 8.5, minus 2 times 12.3 times 8.5, extend this a bit further, cos, and the angle B is 73. So, put all of that into the calculator. So it's the square root of 12.3 squared plus 8.5 squared minus, I'm going to put this in brackets just to make sure it doesn't get mixed up, 2 times 12.3 times 8.5 times cos 73. Close brackets, and we get 12.74, so to three significant figures, that's 12.7 centimetres. And that's the final answer. So you get, in that question, it's 6 marks. So you get 1 mark for the use of this, substituting into this formula. You get a mark for finding that C is 8.5. You get a mark for recognising the correct application of this formula. You get a mark for substituting in. You get a mark for the correct answer here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also, a mark for the correct application of this formula up here. So those are your 6 marks. Question 20. OAB is a triangle. And here it is. We've got a 2a vector going up there, a 4b vector, there's a point n. N is a point on the line such that AN to NB is the ratio 3 to 1. Okay, that's good to know. That's already been written on the diagram for us. Okay, find AB in terms of A and B. So we need to get from, like a road map, here to here. So there's no vectors along here, so we have to go back down this one and along that one. So that's, back down there is minus 2a, make that in bold, and along there is plus 4b, which is fine as an answer, but you should really generally write positive things first, so we can rewrite that to be 4b minus 2a, which is the equivalent expression, and you get 1 mark for that. Right, the second part, it says find ON in terms of A and B, give it in a vector and simplest form. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit for this one. Okay, so we need to get from here to here, O to N. Now, getting along here is easy, that's 4b, so we'll put that down first, 4b. But to get back up to here, we don't have a vector, except we do because we did it in question 1. This vector going down here, we worked out the vector AB was 4b minus 2a. But so to go back up the other way would be the negative of that, so 2a minus 4b. But the problem we've got, we don't want to go all the way back up there, we only want to go a little way, and if this is a ratio 3 to 1, that's 1/4 of the distance. So the vector we want to use is 4b plus 1/4 of 2a minus 4b. So that's simplified 4b plus a half a, 0.5a, because a quarter of 2 is a half, and then a quarter of 4 is 1, so that's minus 1b, which is minus b. So simplified, we can take that b away from the 4b, which gives us 3b plus 0.5a. And that would give us 3 marks. So it's 3 mark for, we obviously get a mark for establishing this, a mark for the simplification, and then a mark for that final answer. Question 21. Write down, it gives us some values here. The first step, it says write down the lower bound of d. Well, if d is correct to 3 significant figures, making that as low as possible would mean, well, if you imagine a scale, 35.6, 35.7, 35.5, if it's correct to 3 significant figures, it must have rounded from anything from halfway between these two up to that, or anything from halfway between those two down to 35.66. So this here, halfway between these two, the lowest point it could be is 35.55. Now, to calculate the lower bound of t, you must show you're working. So we're going to substitute these values into this formula. T equals the square root of 2d over g, but we know some values, so we're going to put the square root of 2d. Now we want to make this t as small as possible, so we want to make the numbers as small as possible. So 2 times d, I want to use the lowest possible value, which we just said was 35.55. Now, in order to make t as small as possible, I want to divide by as much as possible. So instead of just dividing by 9.8 for g, I'm going to divide by 9.85, which is the upper bound, which means I'm dividing by more, which will make the answer smaller. And we do that division in the calculator. So I'm going to put a square root symbol in, followed by a fraction quotient symbol. 2 times 35.55 divided by 9.85 gives us 2.68668, and that carries on. We get, in terms of marks, we get a method mark for that 9.85. We get a method mark for using this 35.55 from the first question. If this was wrong, we can carry it forward, that's fine. And then we get a mark for the final answer, and obviously that was a 1 mark question, that first one up there.